I'm looking at the 2026 elections, and frankly, it's going to be a wipeout. Your viewers need to know that the Democrats are going to pick up at a minimum 25 seats, maybe as high as 45. Wow. In all likelihood, the Democrats will carry the Senate. 25 to 45 seats, that's a bold prediction.
These numbers have just completely flipped. This was such a strength for the President of the United States. The net approval rating on Trump's administration program to deport immigrants who are in the country illegally. It was plus 18 points at the beginning of his presidency, net approval rating. That is very, very positive. It was one of the most popular things in the Trump administration agenda. But now you come over to this side of the screen. Look at that. That's over a 25-point switcheroo in the negative direction.
What's up, everybody? Major Retired Richard Ojeda here. And Donald Trump knows that this November is going to be brutal. And the MAGA minority is freaking out because they finally realize that they're losing, and losing badly.
You got to win the midterms, because if we don't win the midterms, it's just going to be, I mean, they'll find a reason to impeach me. I'll get impeached. We don't impeach them. You know why? Because they're meaner than we are. We should have impeached Joe Biden for 100 different things. They are mean and smart.
It's weird. There's no sense to any, I guess the word is fairness. Are you picking bad guys off the street? Yeah. If you're taking people out of prison and kicking them out of the country, okay, I can live with that. But why are you going after the person in the pew next to me at church on Sunday? Why are you going after the person who's paying their taxes, the person who's paying Social Security that they'll never get anything out of, who doesn't vote, who doesn't get to be a citizen? Why are you going after them? And I think that 67% of independent voters that said they don't like this is really politically important coming this November, I think.
Yeah, the policy incoherent, and some would say belligerent.
Chris Matthews has been watching elections for decades, and he's telling you what the panic means politically. At the same time, Harry Enten is laying out the numbers that just show how far underwater Donald Trump and MAGA really are. And it's not a pretty picture for Republicans seeking re-election.
Look at this. The Trump administration is too focused on deporting immigrants here illegally. Back in February of 2025, it was just 43%. Now it is 53%. They think the Trump administration has taken their eye off the ball. They're focusing too much on this deportation program compared to 74% who say that the Trump administration is not focusing enough on lowering prices. And that is a very dangerous thing, because that's the reason why the American people really elected Donald Trump, was to lower prices. And they think that he's taken his eye off the ball on that. And is in fact too focused on deporting those who are here illegally. And that is very bad politics.
Could it actually be that we're seeing a break in the clouds of this hailstorm, or will Donald Trump's enablers rig the midterm elections and force the results that they want to keep their traitorous asses out of jail? And this is what it really is all about. All of it. Every stunt, every lie, every bombing, every killing, every illegal incursion into Democratic cities, ICE brutalizing people across this country. It's all a distraction, every single bit of it. It's a distraction to keep us from focusing on one thing: Donald Trump staying out of jail. It's about the Epstein files. It's about accountability. And it's about power being used to protect themselves, not the American people.
It marks 1 month since the Justice Department was required by law to release all of the Epstein files. So far, it's released less than 1%.
What's the punishment if they don't?
That's a great point. I mean, that's a problem.
There is none. So here's the deal. I think they should release it. I think they should follow the law. I also have no idea how long it takes to prepare this many documents for this kind of release. Counselor may have some thoughts on that, but they should follow the law. But let's not get our knickers in a twist here. There's no
let's not get our knickers in a twist over child rape. Why are you talking like that? It's insane.
This is a vendetta. This is Donald Trump burning the country down to get back at anyone who ever laughed at him, at his stupid dances, his comb-over hair, his orange spray tan, his ugly suits, his disgusting eating habits. And what he's really running scared about is the release of the Epstein files, the abuse of children, and the propaganda machine he's using to cover it all up. That's what this is. There's an old saying, figures don't lie, but liars figure. And Harry Enten just laid out numbers that MAGA can't spin, can't scream away, and can't escape. We all remember Donald Trump's disastrous first term. There was so many lowlights. But if we're being honest, if we had to pick one of the many things that stood out, it was COVID. Over 1 million Americans died. People were told it was under control. People were told that it would disappear. People were told that it was an absolute hoax. They were told to take horse medicine, to shove black lights up their asses, to follow every conspiracy theory under the sun. People swallowed horse dewormer and destroyed their intestinal linings. Anti-vaxxers had a heyday spreading propaganda that got people killed. And while Americans were getting sick and dying, we all remember what was happening behind the scenes. PPP loans were being handed out like candy to people who didn't deserve them, while regular Americans paid the price with their jobs, their health, and in far too many cases, their lives. Donald Trump promised leadership. What we got was chaos. Now, fast forward to this disastrous second term, not even a year in, and MAGA has already gone from don't tread on me to comply or die. He promised no new wars, cheaper groceries, a golden age. None of it happened. It's all bullshit, and the NRA failed to rise up against the tyranny. You can't deliver a golden age through distractions, bombings, illegal incursions, and violence against American people. So what do when they don't have answers? They rename things, like calling the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. But the bottom line is this. The numbers don't lie. These polls are telling you exactly what's going on. MAGA supporters are turning their backs because they stopped believing. And I think people are finally realizing something very important. That golden age Donald Trump keeps talking about was never meant for them. It was meant for the people at the top, for the people in his circle of money and influence. That's why the support collapsed. Not because of the so-called radical left-wing media, not because of Democrats, because Americans already lived through it, and they've had enough. So now we know why the numbers collapsed. The next question is what that means politically. Chris Matthews has been watching elections for decades, and he's looking at these same trends and saying one thing very clearly. Donald Trump knows that he's facing a brutal November. Our democracy is absolutely at stake. We have to win. There are things that have to be protected permanently. Social Security has to be here forever, not just for us, but for our children and our grandchildren. So we should take these numbers as a warning. We should take these polls as a measure of Donald Trump's ineffectiveness and his entire administration's incompetence. This is what failure looks like when you control everything. Republicans control all three branches of government, even though MAGA supporters can't name them. There has been no meaningful legislation to help the American people. This has been a disastrous session. Everything they've touched has made life worse, not better. Since Donald Trump returned to power, millions of people are now on the brink of losing their health care. Federal workers have been fired. USAID has been terminated, causing real suffering and death around the world. Tariffs have sparked retaliation from the European Union, threatening trade deals. NATO is strained. Troops are being sent to Greenland. Other countries are pushing back against illegal operations in Venezuela. At home, a woman has been murdered in Minneapolis. There's unrest across the country. Communities are boiling over. This isn't just a disaster for Donald Trump and Republicans. This is systemic collapse. This is what happens when unqualified extremists who don't believe in governing are handed power. The grand old party has become the guardian of pedophiles party, a sellout operation for billionaires that no longer respects the Constitution or the rule of law. They are not interested in democracy. They are interested in protecting themselves. But in the end, every one of these Trump enablers, Stephen Miller, Pete Hegseth, Pam Bondi, Caroline Leavitt, all of them will be held accountable. They've tried to force America into reckoning to protect him, and this is going to blow up in their faces. This will be their undoing. The wheels are absolutely coming off of this crazy train, and Americans are ready to get back to normal, away from this horrific, incompetent, warring administration. And if you don't believe that, look at the numbers. Because remember, figures never lie, but liars always figure. And that's a fact. Sappers clear the way, airborne all the way.